raise and arm swing are relatively the same thing, right? So it's the timing, or it's the actual action of this, okay? So that's hand raise, arm swing, okay? So why I'm so passionate about that timing in relation to front foot strike is for multiple reasons, okay? So one being pushing ball into release, okay? So we see a lot of pushy arm action patterns. So some guys with the pushy arm action pattern kind of rotate into this elbow leading throw like they're throwing darts, right? So I'm going to talk from the mechanical standpoint, not the mental standpoint, because I have kind of two different theories on that. So from the mechanical standpoint, going back to the importance of hand raise, arm swing, when we are early with the dynamic of hand raise, right? This is what happens. The trunk begins to rotate prematurely. Okay, the trunk cannot delay rotation through time and space while you're driving if the hand is up here. It can delay rotation if the hand is beginning its ascend to hand raise, arm swing, okay? So guys that are early with the hand now begin to go early with the trunk, right? So say at front foot strike, the hand is here and the trunk is here. So now the trunk beginning to prematurely rotate can't effectively pull the arm through, right? So since you're already rotated before the anchor comes down, which is that lead leg, right? That lead foot. Now, the only thing you really can do is the opposite of aggression, push that arm through, right? Now, I'd encourage you, if you haven't already, to watch a lot of my stuff on the dynamic of pushy arm action versus pulling arm action, right? And utilizing the big muscles, because that is one major thing that I see, and it all stems from the timing of this and the relation to our anchor point, which is that front foot coming down to touchdown. Okay, so right off the bat, you see that the importance of the timing and why it being early is bad for that pushy arm action, right? Second reason is same kind of thing, but a branch off of that is you limit your hip shoulder separation. Okay, so same thing, right? If your hand is early, you can't delay trunk, so the trunk just starts to go, right? So when the trunk starts to go, you can't get that optimal amount of separation from the shoulders to the hips, because now they're going together, right? They're going together. More oftentimes than not, I see, especially with young guys, is they're moving together from the start, and you don't have, there's a lot of people that don't have the body awareness and body control to segment hip rotation, right? So hips rotate, the hand delays to raise, okay? So that delays the trunk, right? So then while the hips are going, the hand is coming up, delay that trunk from rotating, now you have authentic separation. All right, so if the hand is early, the trunk begins its rotation. Now they're moving together and you are not able to segment that. So probably should have started this differently, because that one is the most important, because the amount of separation and the amount of stretch is a direct link to power output, velocity. I'm on a huge kick of this right now, because you look across the board at any high power output pitcher, literally show me one that throws 95 plus. And they are fantastic when it comes to this move, okay? I'm probably not gonna be able to do it because it's hard, but it's right? So that front foot comes down right when this arm, this hand comes up, okay? That move right there is unreal. That's the move. Okay, so then it's like, how do we go about it? Well, everyone's gonna be different, right? But, so you have two things right off the bat from why the timing is so important. Now, there's obviously more things than that, because anything in the game of baseball is just timing. But I think from what I've seen is the early hand limits a ton of velocity, but it's a fine line, right? Because you don't want to be late. You don't want to have arm drag. And I think over time, more instructors will say, hey, get the hand out on time. I know I was taught in professional ball to get the hand out on time. All right, so now, more often times than not, the brain is going to perceive time as in going slower. So now you limit acceleration. I can go on and on about this. But, and then the third thing that I would say is the release of rotational energy prematurely. Now, we want to build up as much rotational energy, right? So it's the same thing with like the stretch, hip shoulder separation, create that stretch. So we want to build up this rotational energy, this torque, and we want to release it at the right time. When is the right time? The right time is that move, okay? So what we see a lot of times is the hand, right? So hand raise is early, the trunk begins its rotation. You're now releasing rotational energy early, and the direction of that rotational energy is now compensated because it's pulling. Instead of delaying hand, building rotational energy, releasing it at the right time, now it's being released not only on time, but it's being released in a linear direction towards our desired target. That's effortless velocity, sustainable velocity. Gerrit, Scherzer, DeGrom, all of these guys, their timing is impeccable, and they're able to leverage their arm. They're able to create that stretch. They're able to release that rotational energy in the direction of their target and on time. Crazy. Now, the next thing is the progression from flat to mound, because obviously when we step on a mound, we're gonna have a slope, which is more space now for that front foot to go, more room for it to go before front foot strike, okay? Whereas on a flat, we're flat, the space is whatever, X, and then on a slope, it's gonna be more space. So then that's where we really see mound breakdowns, is because there's more space to go with that front foot. The hand timing hasn't delayed on a mound yet, hasn't efficiently trained those motor patterns on a mound yet. So it has it on a flat, doesn't have it on a mound. So then it flips up earlier on a mound, right? That rotational energy starts to leak, right? So then the shoulder, the trunk starts to go. So you have all of those problems. And again, this is happening like that, right? Milliseconds of time, but a huge difference when it comes to the goal of pitching velocity, right? So that's why you see a lot of guys that have that, say, a pull down or a flat ground velo of 100, and then they get on a mound and it's 85. It's that little timing, right? The torque is going, the rotational energy is going. You're limiting separation, that stretch, right? So it's like you're pulling the band, and then right when it's time to almost release the band, you give tension, right? So that band that was once right here now begins to give a little bit of tension. Okay, now it's time to release, boom. So you limit that added, right? That little bit of area right there that could have been a potential velocity, 3 to 5 miles an hour. You limit that because you were early. So then that band creeps up here and then you let it go instead of pulling it to the max capacity, right? And now it's time, boom, on time. So you create all of that stretch, all of that leverage, let it go, boom, right? And not start going early. So then you have to give way, give ground, okay? Wow, thought that analogy on the go. Sorry about it. Hopefully that made sense.
Watch any high power output pitcher and they all do this, right? I'm actually really trying hard to find one that doesn't. So if you can find one that actually has, let's say, an early hand raise. So say their hand raise is up here in this position and their foot is in that position, meaning they have room to go before front foot strike, and they still throw 100, that would be amazing. So go ahead and comment below. But anyways, this is us. This is the reason why I'm so freaking passionate about this and discovering this, because of multiple layers of this move. Okay. So obviously the basis of it is hand timing. Okay. So the timing of which the hand is going to raise in relation to the front foot anchoring down back into the ground, otherwise known as, whoa, that's not it, front foot strike. So anytime you see me do FFS, it's front foot strike, right? So that is the basis of this whole entire dynamic. Now there's different layers of what are byproducts of this move, okay? So let's just go ahead and showcase it. Front side is going to hold direction, right? The delay essentially of the hand raise, right, is now going to force the trunk not to necessarily counter rotate, but keep posture, right? So, meaning the trunk won't begin its rotation if our hand hasn't raised, right? It might be different if you're a guy that throws submarine. I haven't really looked too much into that, to be completely honest with you. For my submarine guys, I will look into it eventually. But yeah, the trunk won't delay. Okay, we see a lot of guys, and I encourage you to check out some videos I did on the dynamic of the hand raising early, okay, and what that does to the trunk. Early arm raise, I think I called it, so just type that in. So now another, like I said, little tiny benefit, a little branch of benefit is the trunk posture, essentially keeping posture, right? So it doesn't early rotate because the hand is early. If we have early trunk rotation, we'll have pushy arm action and potentially late hip rotation. And I say potentially because that's not necessarily a staple. This is where I want to do some more research on this, because all of these videos that I'm going to be doing on the screening of this move, these guys do an incredible job at hip rotation on time, okay? Now, that's more so segmented than the trunk rotation, right? Because I think trunk rotation is more so to do with the timing of the hand than anything. I think hip rotation is a motor control pattern. That's something that you need to train. If you want more on that, be sure to check out my videos on late hip rotation and how that affects things. So this move, right? Both of these guys do it extremely well. I'll just kind of break it down, what we have at front foot strike. So anchoring into the ground gives us a really good idea of a lot of different things, okay? So we're going to look at hand posture, connected. So when I say connected, I just mean in relation to the head or the body, right? You don't want to get that hand kind of too far disconnected over here, and you won't necessarily be able to leverage that arm. So with hand connection and with that delay, if you will, of trunk rotation, right? Not necessarily a delay, more of just the delay of the hand. Now we have authentic leverage of the arm coming through. And I don't believe you can have this leverage if you don't have hand connection. And so when I say leverage, I mean that the hip rotation is now completing the throw and the body is pulling the arm through into release. That makes sense? Pulling that arm into release. So remember what I said earlier about if the trunk is premature to rotation, right, then the arm is going to be in a different spot right around here. The hand's going to be right around here since it's already starting to go into the throw. That will lead into a pushy arm action. And you're not maximizing that stretch that we see these two guys have, where the hips are going, the trunk hasn't begun its rotation yet. So now you hold stretch and then release as soon as anchors into the ground. All right. So leveraging arm through the zone. But yeah, that's the move. Okay? It's so interesting to me because it's just literally accelerating into that slot. I mean, that's happening so fast, guys. That move is happening so fast. It's boop, 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 boop. Velo. Enhancer. I'm telling you. That's it. But as I mentioned a ton of different times, I have a whole slew of videos on these like little mini segments that I've done regarding, like early arm raise, late hip rotation, trail leg hip flexion would be one of them. That's kind of more segmented. What else did I mention? The hand connection. So hand connectivity, that's a whole nother thing.